And welcome back to Hearthstone Masters Tours Los Angeles, presented by T-Mobile. Doa back with you, and Heatwave back again as we kick off our semifinals. Going to have TNCAnswer versus Casie as our first match here, and I'm amazed, first of all, Heatwave, that we have a Holy Wrath Paladin in the semifinals. Like that blows my mind.
I think this is really just the story about things that people aren't expecting doing excessively well. This paladin, even though it hasn't been showing great results, it seems like it's squeaking by a little
Uh,
bit. It kind of won in the first series off a mistake, unfortunately, but
yes.
it is something that is able to pull off wins throughout the entire weekend and get to this point. So I'm like super top four coming forward, or sorry, the semifinals.
Yeah, I think a lot of people surprised too to see the combo priest doing so well, but a lot of players saying this deck is coming up and just in time too because it's going to be gone very soon with Year of the Phoenix coming out. But hey, I'm glad. I'm glad we're kind of seeing like the last hurrah of combo priest in this tournament as well, coming from our other quarterfinals.
Yeah, so but unfortunately we're not going to see it in this matchup, however.
No,
But with
sad.
Answer and Casie going at it, Casie, of course, is the European Grandmaster, really top four 2019 Hearthstone Global Finals, top eight in 2000 in the top 16s, and Grandmasters, of course, champion for season two. He is a pro amongst pros, and quite frankly, is someone who you can't ever count out, even if he's behind, because he has some of the most powerful standalone decks in the game, and his lineup just reflects that, and he knows how to execute with them. So nothing fancy coming from his side, but pure power coming from Casie.
Yep, that's right. From Germany, plays for Team Complexity. Very strong player. His opponent, TNCAnswer. This is his first career Masters Tour appearance, but man, what an appearance it has become after making it all the way here to the semifinals. And there, we asked how the Paladin got this far. Well, in the Chinese scene, he is credited as an OTK Paladin expert. So take from that what you will. But this guy knows his way around the Holy Wrath Paladin.
Yeah, and with that list, it's gonna could be coming up in quite yet. However, with
Not yet.
Casie with the Highlander Mage, it's something where it's something that we're just talking about in that last 5 game series that I got done casting with TJ. Is that it's something that has just been kind of falling short, and even though it's super entertaining to cast and kind of go all in, actually, and it's something where it hasn't been doing too well. But
Right.
Answer is going to have an answer for it because he is in fact bringing that Holy Wrath Paladin.
Indeed, as we take a look at the decks brought to you for our deck spotlight brought to you by T-Mobile. This is TNCAnswer's Holy Wrath slash OTK, whatever you want to call it, Paladin. And it does one thing. It goes through your deck really fast and then helps you hit people for 25 damage with Holy Wrath. That is what this deck does, and it does it well, but does it do it well enough to make it all the way to the grand finals? I've had my doubts the entire weekend, but here we are. So at this point, I'm not making any predictions. I'm just going to say, let's just see what happens.
Well, if it's going to able to pull off a win here, it will be against a mage. One of the main things that mage is unable to kind of do is do a lot of early game pressure and do burn damage over the top, because right when the paladin gets into the mid to late game, it's able to deal with boards that are presented with board clear combos with
Yeah, very true.
shrink rays and like qualities and all that fun stuff. However, mage is going to need to be able to pull off some of its broken quote unquote combos with the Luna's Pocket Galaxy and just cheap minions to be able to get a victory off here, or else the paladin's just going to draw its entire deck and win.
Yeah, I think the earlier versions of the Highlander Mage were able to put a little bit of pressure on sometimes, which became important in the mirror match and things like that, in slower matchups like this. But the newer version that's a little bit more top heavy than even before, where now we have things like the Mountain Giant out and like Amazing Reno in. Notably, though, we should mention Casey's Mage does still have the Mountain Giant in there. So he maybe does have a little bit of a chance to put some early damage on. But like you said, if you can't get it done early, then you either have to accept that Paladin's going to be able to control, mostly the mid game, and then late game you just have to somehow survive, find a way to sort of finagle the wrong cards into their deck and do some kind of like funny business to make this work.
Yeah, I am kind of worried that Casey brought this mage list first. Again, I'm not necessarily going to question him, but when it comes down to it, I really would like the rogue against the Paladin being able to put up a little bit more pressure, do some more broken things a little bit faster, and also have the Flick Sky Shift to be able to deal with the uh, the Shrivala combo, just being able to say nuh to it. So,
Yeah.
and if there's a deck that I think that the Paladin would able to get a win off of, it would be this Mage.
Well, you'd like that matchup, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you kind of have to kind of have to play the prediction game a little bit when you run into the situation and hope for the best. And so we'll see how the Mage does against the Paladin. But I agree, man. I mean, if I were Casie right now, I would have kind of been like, well, maybe the Rogue would have been a good lead in class instead. But
Of course,
we'll see what happens. He's still got. Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, and he doesn't know that his opponent is bringing Paladin, so it's something where, if anything,
Right.
it's not necessarily against Casie, but if anything, a great read from Answer saying, "Hey, if I need to get a win with Paladin, if I need to bring it out first, I need to be able to get a win and start snowballing from there and be
Just
able
get
to
it done with.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's it's conquest, man. You have to get a win with every deck you bring anyway. So, might as well try to swing for the fences and get that win with Paladin early on. But it has been close. I haven't gone back and looked at all of Answer's results for the weekend, but he's had a couple close rounds.
Yeah, I mean, he's been able to put up solid numbers throughout the entire time, and the Paladin has been getting wins, so it's not something that he's been really ever punished for bringing. He is here at the top 8, and he's going to keep moving on. So,
I mean, we did see him doing things like killing his own Shrivala in an earlier match just to avoid Flick Skyshiv. So I think when people talk about him being an expert at this deck, what makes him that expert is that he's just so like hyper aware of every little permutation that can mess with his plan, right? That can mess with like the OTK combo, and being able to sort of like anticipate the things that could screw that up before they happen is kind of what got him here in a big way.
Yeah, and we will be switching these hands. It does look like that we do have Answers
Switching the cameras, something like that.
Cams, there we go.
Or
So
the
we'll get
players
that
or
sorted
whatever.
out.
We'll figure it out. You guys can figure it out too. Let's take a look at this game. Obviously, Answer on the top of your screen, Casie on the bottom as the Mage. As we get things started here in our semifinals, one of these players is going to go on to the grand finals, compete for $32,500 for first place. Book of Specters coming out for Casie right away. Ooh, loses a Conjurer's Calling and the Ray of Frost, and picks up a card that he is not going to be able to use for a very long time. So, not the greatest book I've ever seen.
Yeah, but at the same time, those two spells are not necessarily things that are going to be super useful against the Paladin. Anytime that you're able to develop a large threat, it's almost always going to be answered with an AoE effect. So Conjurer's Calling not going to be too important, and a freeze effect also not going to be too important. So Answer not really losing too much there with that Book of Specters, unlike the last game that we saw with Book of Specters really discarding really powerful cards.
Especially in the mirror, yeah, with that last game, man. If one player doesn't lose anything and the other guy loses 3, that's it doesn't get much worse than that. In fact, it doesn't get any worse than that. It's rough. All right. Escape Mana Saber, maybe hitting the board here. Yeah, Thinking about maybe the Twilight Defender instead.
Yeah, the Twilight Drake is something that is a lot more stats on the board right now, and the Escape Mana Saber is something where you want to play when you can accelerate into something. So if you play it now, we can theoretically Malagos into a 1-mana spell, a Malagos version of a spell, but at the same time, just more stats. I like this play a lot, being able to and develop an Escape Mana Saber later to accelerate into something a little bit more powerful.
Yeah, I wonder a little bit. Normally, I'd totally be on board with that, but kind of going back to what you said earlier, where a lot of Paladin's removal is AoE anyway, or it just negates those stats. This might be one of those rare situations where maybe the stats weren't as important as getting that early mana. So it's an interesting thing to think about, you know?
Yeah, one of the things that I would point out in that is that if your opponent is using, say, or an AoE effect to destroy an escaped mana saber instead, then that means all your big stuff later on is going to be completely fine. So I do like the more stats right now. It's, again, kind of using the stats earlier on to be able to leverage them. Like, it's, again, tempo first, utility second. It's a standard Hearthstone with powerful stuff. But at the same time, Escape Mana Saber could have gotten this Malagos intellect a little bit faster.
We'll see if he's able to take advantage of that later on. Right now, Answer going over his turn. It's kind of wondering, thinking about the Zephyr a little bit, mousing over it for the moment. But it is a lot of stats on the board to deal with, like you're saying. And this is the stage where Paladin just kind of wants to cycle through their deck as much as possible. Do you think sometimes you just need to accept that you're going to take, a big chunk of damage early as a Paladin player?
Definitely, especially as the combo player with a lot of healing potential in the deck. It's something where you have to use your life as a resource.
Sure.
And when we do see that Zephyr's in the far left of this hand, no, sorry, I almost Answer has multiple duplicates in this deck. There are 2 Crystologies, 2 Baleful Bankers, 2 Flash of Lights, 2 Wild Pyromancers, 2 Timeouts, and 2 Holy Wraths. So Zephyr's isn't quite turned on yet. However, if there's only a few cards in it, and we do see a few of them being drawn already.
Well, a little bit more damage added in. All right. Arcane Breath. But you got Reno on turn 6. It's going to be able to kill everything. Push some more damage to face. So, yeah, Casie doing, what you do as a mage in this situation. Just kind of controlling their side of the board and building up more possible damage coming in. Looking ahead. It's interesting because this Escape Mana Saber becomes less and less valuable the longer it sits in your hand, And he's definitely playing the cards you need to play at the right time, but you feel kind of bad. You saw him kind of mousing over it, being like, man, it would have been nice to just have that out there,
I don't know. I like this Escape Mana Saber on turn 7. Then it attacks turns 8 and accelerates you into your powerful turn 9.
I suppose there's that.
If anything, this is something where we have a possible planning hovering, where this Escape Mana Saber possibly, because this board has to get dealt with somehow. So if it gets timed out or dealt with immediately, Escape Mana Saber can actually be an incredibly powerful tool to keep your game plan moving after a board clear, especially because you have 2 Alexstrasza's in hand at 9 mana.
Who let that Mana Saber escape anyway?
Probably Medivh.
He's known for that kind of thing.
Yeah, shenanigans.
Well, he's kind of got that demon connection a little bit too, so I don't know. I don't trust that guy.
I know.
He's going to be a timeout. Yeah.
What? It was a heck of a party. That's all I say.
Yeah, who would have expected that, right? All right. Oh, wow. Jamming Luna's Pocket Galaxy on curve immediately.
Yeah,
it's a good time to do it. You're not going to take really any pressure from your opponent right then.
Exactly, especially after a timeout play where you basically have to assume your opponent is planning a board clear. You don't want to overdevelop. You can draw cards, or you can play something that makes the rest of your deck infinitely more powerful. And with Malygos's Intellect in hand, that's going to be 4 cards with a high probability of them being 1 mana bombs in this deck.
True enough. TNCAnswer going over his possible answers here. You've got some board clears, I suppose. You've got the Pyromancer Shrink Ray. But kind of feels a little bit bad to use it now. Yeah, just jamming the Holy Wrath.
Looks like Perhaps. He's going to be... Yeah, so we have the discounted timeout in hand from the swapping of the Prism.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and he drops the Pyromancer. Interesting. Not going for the timeout. So willing to take this damage, but saying, hey, maybe you want to trade into this. But he's got the Arcane Breath anyway.
Yeah, and even then, the Malygos is also something incredibly powerful that, or with its stat line, it's something that you almost always want to trade into. And with the counterspell here, we do have Casie going to be able to play around this as well.
Right.
We're able to play around a board clear.
What a huge board right now for Casie. This is getting pretty scary for Answer because you're dropping pretty low health right now. You need to find some healing. You need to find some way to rest the board back in your favor a little bit. He can get rid of the Divine Shield with the Elven Archer at least.
The problem is here, this counterspell is absolutely backbreaking for Answer.
Yeah.
It's not going to be able to allow him to shrink ray this board and clear it with Wild Pyromancer. And then if he plays both of those cards, he doesn't have enough mana to play the timeout to keep himself alive. So timeout, if Answer can have any clairvoyance into this being counterspell, it looks like that he has to just assume and pray that it's not. However, he's going to be punished and lose this first game.
I mean, you saw him shaking his head before he even did it. He's like, well, whatever. And that's the end of the game anyway. He knew it was over at that point, and that's a game 1 win for Casie, taking the early lead in this series. And so far, not so good for this Paladin. And you were saying early on that Mage might possibly be one of the decks that would struggle a little bit more against this Paladin, but Casie ending up getting the win pretty easy. I mean, it ended up being maybe a little bit of luck involved with the counter spell, but certainly something that Casey's going to be pretty psyched about going into game 2.
Yeah, one of the main things that, and especially in previous metas, that have been able to make this paladin list suffer are mid-range threats that your opponent can't just deal with true silver swings or wild pyromancer AoE whirlwind effects, where you
Right.
have to use pure all-out removal on middling boards. And right there, Casie was able to play Luna's Pocket Galaxy when his opponent was just hoping that he was going to have to overdevelop or just have a dead turn. So that just went excessively well for Casie there.
Yeah, so the Mage locked away for Casie. So the question is, what's going to be next? He's got the Rogue, he's got the to play here, and it is a it is a Quest Druid, as we saw earlier in the quarterfinals. And what's going to be? He's going to go with the Galakrond Rogue for game number 2. Got to get a win with both of them anyway here.
Yeah, this is one of those things where we just saw Flick Sky Shiv earlier on the tournament being able to just take out a Shivala if needed. And also the Boom Pistol Bully are both two key cards in this matchup. But it does look like Answer's going to be switching things out. But yeah, when it comes to that Paladin, this rogue list is also incredibly strong. So Casie looking to possibly get another win off of it. However, Answer switching it up. Quest Druid coming out.
Okay. All right. We've got Quest Druid for both players in this match. Not in this game, of course. But this can be one of those decks, too, that can overwhelm your opponent really quickly. But if you suffer from a lot of damage early while you're trying to get your Druid quest done, you're trying to get some of those bigger minions out, something you have to worry about. Unfortunately for Answer, one of his techs specifically against Mage, Living Dragon Breath, is now basically just a vanilla 3 for a 3/4 because the Mage on Casey's side has already gotten that win.
Yeah, it's not going to be looking like a really useful card, but at the same time, a lot of the ways that the Druid just loses is by not doing anything in the mid game and getting steamrolled over. So even though it is middling a random small minion for 3 mana, it still gets the job done for playing stats that your opponent has to deal with. So when
3 for a 3/4 always feels good, no matter what, man. I mean, if you have a little bit more stats for the cost, I'm happy anyway.
Spider tank of spider tanks.
Exactly. It's like a Chillin' Yeti's little brother.
Or the big brother of River Crocodilus. And man, I really wish we got to do some of that stuff we were practicing in rehearsal and show everyone. However,
I know. We had so much fun stuff planned. Oh well.
Sounds like a plan. All right, and we do have the Innervate turn 1 for Answer. Exactly what you're looking for. Getting that quest online one more turn earlier is just incredibly powerful.
Yep, absolutely. Especially against a matchup like this where Rogue can put a lot of pressure on you with an early Van Cleef, which is what we're going to maybe see next turn. We'll see. It's going to be the Devoted Maniac right now. Just get a bit of damage in.
Yeah, if anything, because of the Witchy Lackey being generated from Devoted Maniac, this is actually something where Casie doesn't want this minion to die. He wants to be able to Witchy Lackey, bounce it back, Witchy Lackey, bounce it back, Witchy Lackey, and then Edward Van Cleef. Because if it's not Edward Van Cleef, or if it's not Witchy Lackey, or if there's not a minion on the board for Witchy Lackey, then it's not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, gonna be the Wrath play from Answer, so no hope for the Devoted Minion anyway. To stick around.
Yeah, Answer obviously has to read that as why isn't he attacking him? There was a strong play for Rising Winds that turn, or an argument for that. And when it comes down to it, would have drawn a pretty good card as well. But when it comes down to it, Answer realizes that his opponent isn't attacking for a reason and plays around. Great, it's a play.
Yeah, why not? All right, so here we go. Is he going to be able to get that turn he was looking for here? Just clearing the Crystal Merchant for now. But now the quest is online. And so now it's like all systems go for Answer. Oasis Surger comes in. You got a couple 5/5s on the board with this. And so if you're Casie, you can see him kind of looking a little bit concerned in his chair right now.
Yeah, this is where
you handle this growing board.
You gotta start hearing the epic sax music at this time.
Pretty much, yep.
Giant Van Cleef and just go all in. Go wide as well. Make your opponent have to have Starfall, which Answer does have.
Waiting for it. Oh, the totem. All right, here comes Big Edwin. And how big is he exactly? He's pretty huge. He's a 14-14.
That dies on the board. Or sorry, not on the board, but with this Starfall, it's just going to die. And Casie basically, this isn't all in too, just because he was able to find things like the Evil Totem and Loot Hoarder, and he has the Galakron in hand. So this is definitely going to be something where he's not going to be super sad at the end of this turn, but at the same time, going all in on this Van Cleef was a strong play. It's just going to get cut short.
Right, but you kind of expect this, I suppose, as a rogue player. You know, you do what you can, and you kind of like hope it survives. But you know, with 10 damage already showing on the board, I think he could be reasonably sure that it's going to get cleared out. Unfortunately, the Nourish gets used, and yeah, he's just going to go for the Wrath play instead. Not really worrying so much about the other parts of the board, I guess.
This is incredibly interesting. I like the play. It's something that I just saw the clean Starfall and went from there. But and he's holding onto the Anubisath defenders as well, saying that just these small minions don't matter to me whatsoever. Incredibly interesting play.
Right. Well, just playing it really, really safe. I mean, now he's got a even cleaner Starfall if you kind of forgive for the moment that Waxadred does put that card back in your deck anyway. But he can do that, then drop a taunt if he wants to. We'll see, though. Answer just trying to play so conservatively with his cards right now.
Yeah, I do actually really like that. The more that I think about that play from Answer, it's something where it's kind of like the Zephyrs effect, is that if you have Zephyrs in your hand, you almost always want to hold on to it for the situation where you need it. And Starfall is one of those few cards that Druid needs to be able to deal with boards that no other way, or that the Druid can't deal with any other way. So I really like being able to hold on to it until you can't deal with it.
Yeah, even if you have two of them in your hand, the temptation is to get a little bit overeager with them, but Answer not doing that. So there's the board. Is taken out. Ziliak's drawn from the Loot Hoarder, actually. And the Anubisath Defender comes down. Looks like, yeah, he's going to drop both of them. Why not? Couple 3/5s to the Taunt, another Crystal Merchant, just to get that card draw engine continuing to sort of like operate. Waxadred comes back immediately. That's pretty nice for Casie.
Yeah, and the Goblin Lack in hand, this is actually one of the most powerful things about Waxadren coming back, is that if, with all the access to Goblin Lackeys, it can be a rush bait, too.
Yeah. It's basically a Dragon Maw Poacher at that point that keeps coming back from your deck for free. Big 8-mana rusher. Or not 8 mana, 8 damage rusher. Alright, praise Galakron. And Galakron has got to be pretty close to being fully invoked. Has he done it 3 times? Is that been 3 or 4?
Yeah, it's been 3 times, so he needs one additional, because it is Galakron the Apocalypse right now. One more invoke will put him to Galakron the... Or sorry, no, it is the Apocalypse now. So yeah, Azeroth's End will be the next one after one single invoke.
Right. I'm so used to not even looking at the card text, because he's usually just kind of peeking out from the corner of my hand or in my deck, you know? Oh, wow. All right. The double Hidden Oasis draw, that'll definitely keep Answer sustained for a long time.
Yeah, with all these Rising Winds, too, it's just something that all these Druid lists with Ysera Unleashed in it is something where if its perfect position is being able to draw through its deck as quickly as possible, and these Rising Wind cards are something that can be placed up on the board to draw cards and give you more things that do exactly that. It's such an incredible card in this kind of archetype of Druid.
Floop's Glorious Gloop. Drawn as well, so another option. It just feels like Answer just has an endless amount of things you can sort of use right now, and everything feels good. Seal Fate comes out for Casie, so there's the final invoke. Not quite the mana to do Galakron this turn.
Yeah, one of those things that we should talk about too is one of the reasons why Answer would hold on to those Starfalls is because he is including Floop's Glorious Gloop. One of the downfalls of Druid is just getting stuck in this rhythm of removing stuff and not being able to put enough stats on the board to swing back into things. But Floop's Glorious Gloop is exactly that. It can give you mana to then, after you clear a board, be able to swing back and play a lot of stats where your opponent can't do that without such a card. So an incredibly powerful card. I love this inclusion from Answer. He might be a paladin expert, quote unquote, but I really like this inclusion in his druid list.
I mean, he's an everything expert, right? If you make it to the semifinals of a Masters tour, you are an everything expert in Hearthstone.
Amen.
So, so we'll see how he decides to use this hand. Scenario is obviously a strong option for doing what you were talking about, building that board at some point in the game. But how do you clear the board and also swing it in your favor now? It's not a hugely scary board, but it's a little bit awkward as far as just kind of like making this work mana-wise.
Yeah, with so much healing with a double hidden Oasis in hand, he definitely has time and health to spare, so he doesn't have to deal with this right away.
I kind of like this. I like the Ysera Unleashed just to get those Dream Portals in there.
Yeah, this was actually something we talked about earlier on, or at least in one of my series earlier, is that early Dragon, when you're able to play Unleashed, or Ysera Unleashed, it's something where instead of getting all the portals all at once, being able to diversify your threats and have things spread out over time is actually incredibly difficult to deal with for most decks out there, if not all decks out there.
Yeah, so Ysera going to get sat back to the hand, becomes kind of a dead card in hand for Answer then. And the board is growing. Another Waxadread. It's actually kind of shocking that Waxadread has come back twice already for Casie. Shielded Galakron just to grab another Lackey and get some more bodies on the board. So now, we talked about it earlier, and then, you guys were talking about it in the last match, I believe, where one of the things that you can do against Druid is just to try to put a lot of health on the board. That's tough to chew through with those AoE spells.
Yeah, we do have, I think this is a time where Floop's Glorious Gloop is going to have to come into play here. Being able to swing things back, playing Floop's Glorious Gloop into a Starfall, getting back some mana so then you can play your Oasis Surger and start swinging things back into your favor.
Answer going over his possibilities here, but I feel like you kind of nailed it, right? Ferocious Howl. I suppose now is a good time for that too, just to gain as much armor as you can. But you need to do something about this board. You can't just rely on that armor. And Floop's Glorious Gloop used. Yeah, and there's the Starfall as well, like we were talking about. And this should give him a lot of mana back again. To try to build up something on his side. That Oasis Surger should be the option here. All right. Yep, and wow, and a Hidden Oasis too. Man, Floop's Glorious Gloop just gives you so much to work with.
Forgot for a moment that I was pushed to talk. It's one of those times where you're like, oh, I'm so excited
Right,
this is
wow.
the play. But yeah,
So
you nailed it. And when it comes down to it too, Kronk's Dragonhunt too is a massive threat. Anytime that a Galakron deck goes wide like that, you always have to answer it. So heads up play from Answer, and that was an incredible sequence of events for him.
Right. Giving just enough mana to get everything out there, including that Hidden Oasis. But you're right. I mean, Kronk's kind of operates as a Savage or as a blood. Why am I blanking on the name of the Shaman card right now? Bloodlust. Right. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a Deathwing Mad aspect. So it's a nice 12/12 to get on the board.
Casual Deathwing, you know.
Yeah. As you do. Certainly trades into Ziliax, but do you want to give your opponent any more health? We'll see what else he decides to do here. He's got a couple options.
Yeah, with the draw of Nourish, that also has a very high chance of getting more stats on the board. And
right.
And what his opponent just did, and he doesn't necessarily have a lot of cards in hand that are really overly threatening, because there would have been a lot more damage pushed to his face. So I really like just drawing, getting more stats on board, and not necessarily worrying about anything else from there.
Right. And he does indeed get a lot more stats on the board right now. The Twilight Drake, not the thing you want to see too often, but...
You know what? I'll take a Twilight Drake right now, alongside every other minion that's being played. This is just
It's
awesome.
got 4 attack, you know?
And he has the spell damage as well. There's no spell in hand yet. And the beast does not generate spell damage from that, or doesn't gain value from it.
One more portal. All right. Let's get another 3-5 worth of stats. Boom Pistol Bully number 2 for Casie right now. Kronks clears a lot of this. But it doesn't, I suppose it doesn't deal completely with the Deathwing Mat aspect. But do you just go for the big board clear here with Kronks? What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's no other way that you're going to be able to deal with this board. Kronks is going to come down here, backstab the 3/6 poacher as well.
Yep.
And hope to live another day. Being able to Evil Miscreant afterwards as well can be something to get Casie back in this game.
So yeah, he's going to backstab the Deathwing. 5 damage to everything. And then hoping for a Goblin Lackey to rush Kronks into that Deathwing, but he doesn't find it. Oh, that would have been nice, and I guess he has to run it in with Face. That's 12 damage to Face.
Yeah,
wrong Lackey at the wrong time.
Casie is, of course, the aggressor in this scenario, too. However, we also have Answer out of cards in his list. So even though Casie can definitely use his health as a resource, he has plenty of cards. All he has to do is start really making sure that his board is large enough so that he can start answering everything that his opponent throws at him.
Right.
And we do have the Ysera Unleashed again, and a Phlebotomist Flute that can be immediately followed up. So there's going to be a lot of powerful boards. Casie needs to be able to actually not just deal with what happens now if Answer goes with that line, but he needs to find a way to kill his opponent instead, which it looks kind of scary for looking at his hand right now. If Answer does the Ysera play, it's gonna be close.
Well, Casie kind of finds himself in the situation that Answer was in earlier, where at some point you want to go from just simply trying to control the board to taking some sort of advantage and being able to put the pressure back on. It's a nice draw on the candle. Get another Waxadread back again. There's a Questing Adventurer. All right. Choice you see sometimes in some of these Galakron Rogue decks.
Yeah, the third Waxadread being drawn off the candle, plus the fourth one in hand.
Right. That could be the key right there. He's going to go ahead and play the other Waxadread, but that could really be the key of eventually overwhelming your opponent if those Waxadread candles just keep coming back, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of stats that these green portals are going to need to be able to find, like rushing worms or something to help deal with this board. We do have the
more Deathwing Mat aspect. Yep.
But yeah, Deathwing Mat aspect, though, again, isn't going to be able to rush in. It's just going to trigger without the battle cry.
All right. Amalgam.
So might be 4 mana, 8/8. Doesn't really matter too much yet.
Not a whole lot. One more portal. Doesn't really get used. The fatigue begins. And Answer perhaps sweating a little bit because, yeah, he has a huge board. But if his opponent has a way to clear it, might be in trouble. But I think Casie might be out of options here.
Yeah, I really like this heal from TNCAnswer saying, hey,
why not?
Sure, I'm not getting a 6/6, but I am healing myself. You have to be able to find lethal this turn or else I'm going to smack you with a million dragons.
Yep. And that's certainly a lot of damage from Casey's side, no doubt, but it's not 30 damage. Another Waxadread. I mean, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. It is activated. Go for it. I mean, you kind of have to. There's no other option at this point.
Dragon Queen Alexstrasza.
Yep. He doesn't get... Well, Caligos. Yeah, you're right. Everscale Drake, first of all, just to gain a little bit of armor, I guess. Make some space for Caligos. And what spell does he find?
Rogue spell, so Betrayal is going to be one of the best ones that he could actually find here.
Right. Now, where to place it, though? Let's see. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Get rid of 16 damage anyway.
Betrayal is going to take out the 5. It's going to take out the 8.
Oh, right.
You decide.
It's been a while.
That it has.
Uses the Waxadread. All right.
Yeah, Betrayal was a great pickup there.
Yeah, that really kind of saved the day at this point. And the fatigue damage, certainly going to be a mounting concern for Answer right now. He's got 10 damage on the board.
Cenarius does represent more. Yeah, it's 6 additional damage.
Now it's the kind of the reverse situation. Like, do you have lethal?
Yeah, Cenarius has got to be the play here. It puts the most stats on board. It's defensive and enables you to swing things back in your favor.
Yep.
Puts up taunts. There is a world where possibly Ysera Unleash comes down but at the same time, it's going to fill your board, and then you can't Cenarius afterwards as well.
Yeah. I think you have to Cenarius. It's like you're saying, I think having the taunts out there, just being able to slow your opponent down a little bit, giving yourself a chance to live one more turn, is probably the most ideal thing, but it's looking a little bit grim suddenly. The bees. I was wondering, because this is a little bit of board clear then.
Yeah. So here we're playing this, or Answer's playing this to be able to trigger the Death Rattle as Chrono Breaker, because if he got buffed up, it wasn't going to be able to die very easily. So here, being able to play the Ysera Unleash, clear as much stuff off the board, and say, hey, another situation where you have to kill me now, or else I'm going to have another giant board of stuff.
The swings in this game have been just crazy turn to turn right now. Where, like, I feel like if you go into the past of Hearthstone, like a year or two, and you had one of the last 4 turns happen, that would just be game over no matter what the other deck was. But we're in a world now where the decks in this meta are so capable of, having big board clears and big rebuilding in the same turn, these huge swing turns.
Yeah, at the end,
a ton of fun to watch. But
at the end of a standard year, this is definitely where the most powerful decks are. And yeah, what we just missed too is that with this play, TNCAnswer was able to draw the portal immediately, being able to get these dragons on board as quickly as possible. So now they can attack next turn, saying, not Casie, you have to be able to deal with something next turn. You have to win now.
Regular Ysera just gives a laughing sister over to Answer. One of the rare double Ysera boards. But if you're Casie, thinking hard about this one, your options are a little bit limited. Flick, yeah, can at least get rid of the 7/7. You wouldn't really be able to target otherwise. All right. That's something anyway, but has he reduced the damage enough?
Damage on board. Plus, there's going to be an additional 8 coming down from from Cenarius.
Yep. And that's not quite enough math-wise.
He did the math. Yeah, correct. He is still alive technically.
Yep. 22 damage on the board. But yeah, you just use it to clear. Your opponent is running out of options. And even if you clear this entire thing, you still have a pretty big board to deal with. You don't even need to really worry about the 1/1 or the 2/2, honestly. Maybe you just leave Flick, but how many shadow steps has he seen? Just trying to think of like possible options to clear more for Casie's side. But he's just going to go for nearly the full board clear, getting rid of the lackey to just in case there's a Togwaggle coming out.
Yeah, both of the shadow steps have been used.
Yeah.
If there's ever a lackey to come back in, it is Ethereal lackey, but not so much.
No. Secret plan? he's digging deep. It's the backstab. Oh, explosive trap. That's pretty funny actually, but that's not enough, and it is going to be a tie series now. TNCAnswer getting the win with his druid, and that was a wild game, man. That went so back and forth over the last like 5 turns of the game.
Yeah, I love these dragon cards, man. They are just explosive in every way, shape, and form. And being a series 1-1 now, I cannot wait for these rest of these games. I can't everything is going nonstop and just powerful swing turns back and forth, back and forth. I am so pumped. This is what Hearthstone is all about.
Like Descent of Dragons has easily been my favorite expansion in like forever, basically. Because even though I didn't cast Hearthstone for a while, for a few years, I was still playing, here and there when I had the time. And man, Descent of Dragons just it just brings the game to like another level for me. I know I'm sounding like an advertisement right now, but I really mean it. Like I'm having more fun with Hearthstone now than I ever have before.
Yeah, the Dragons expansions all throughout the entire year have been great. It's actually, I run a fireside gathering, and it's something that it's kind of a little bit sad that, along with us being bedroom status at this time, a lot of the
Yeah,
fireside gatherings are also on hold due to the pandemic.
right.
However, when it comes down to it, a lot of our players, our patrons that come to our fireside, have been having so much fun with this expansion, just because things like Mage and all these Dragon cards are so much fun and exciting.
Right.
Yeah, can't.
Well, it's interesting because there's that sense of random chance, right? That's always existed. As we look at the next decks coming out, Casie needs one of this Galakron Rogue, but it seems like the variance is more sort of manageable than it used to be. If that makes any sense, like the randomness that's in the game, I feel like you can anticipate more what you're running into and just sort of have like blanket mental preparedness for what your opponent might throw out, and you still get a lot of really fun surprises, but uh, it's it creates more like decision points in the game in a more interesting way, I think, than existed before.
Yeah, it's definitely very true. And when it comes down to it, that's actually something that the design team has actually actively stated when it comes to some of the cards that are rotating to the Hall of Fame in the
Right.
future. This is going to be mind control tech, has been pinpointed as an early game swing effect that the design team actively states that they do not that does not belong in their game at this time. So it's
Sure.
really exciting to see changes in philosophy for the better and the long-term survival and thriving of Hearthstone.
Yeah. As much as it hurts me to lose stuff like Leroy, like it's nice to see that stuff going because it does free up the design space a little bit more for future cards coming out. Looks like we have a Rogue Mirror between these two players after just taking a quick look at those deck lists.
Yeah, the main difference here is going to be that TNCAnswer has things like a Faceless Corruptor when his opponent has things like the Questing Adventurer from Casie. So a little bit more combo-oriented stuff coming out from Casie, with a little bit more rush mechanic coming out from Answer.
Interesting. What do you prefer? I actually am not a big fan in my own games of the questing adventure. It's there's certainly solid choices all around, but I always feel like trying to play around that and the Van Cleef, like it's I feel like it adds a little bit too much, you know.
One of the reasons why I actually really like Questing Adventure is because
I knew
sometimes,
you'd be on the opposite side. How did I know
well,
that?
it's one of those things where when Questing Adventure comes down, or when you lose games with Rogue, it's because you're doing a lot of stuff without a lot of payoff. Like there's a handful of cards that generally do things that are powerful, that really swing the game in your favor. However, with sometimes you don't draw them in time, so having another payoff card for the like quote unquote, or the mana cheating effects that
Sure.
your deck does, Questing Adventure is just another card that can really spike power when your opponent may not be thinking about it.
Well, head to head. This time between those two rogue archetypes, two Galakron rogue archetypes, as Answer and Casie both looking to take a lead in this series.
With Edward Van Cleef in both of the hands.
Yep. Skyvateer. Just a nice little card draw engine coming out with the last adventure. And Van Cleef just tossed out there as a 2/2.
Yeah,
That is bold. That's like really old school, like Rogue v Rogue. You don't see a lot of just Van Cleef on curve like that.
yeah, this is meme status at this point. It's saying, hey,
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
Van Cleef is just a 2/2 for 3.
I'm kind of shocked a little bit, but it's out there. The Cobalt Lackey, there to finish him off. But you know, if you look at the hand of Casie, he's got this Devoted Maniac, and so all he's really concerned about early on is just controlling that very early board status, because every single point of damage is so important in this matchup that you really need to do everything you can to cause your opponent to trade their minions into your minions and not your face.
Yeah, especially with Galakron in the opening hand for Casie. He's definitely
Right.
on the early invoke game plan and just going to try to leverage that to be able to swing the game in the mid game. He has basically conceded the early game to TNCAnswer. And Answer is going to be trying to realize that and swing things back so then his board state is strong enough so he can just keep going and fight through that early Galakron.
Yeah, well, when your opponent plays that on curve Van Cleef, you're like, okay, I think I know what you're up to here. It's all about survival for Casie.
or just absolutely confused and needing to take a long time, because that is not necessarily a play that you see very often.
Not often. Like I said, like that reminds me of a play you used to see like back when I casted this game, back in like 2016 and earlier, you know? And I like this too. In the Rogue Mirror, like a 4/4 Van Cleef can make a big difference sometimes. Again, just making it tough to get rid of. You know, it's out of range of Sealed Fate, it's out of range of Backstab, with no minions on the other side. It can be annoying. It's going to go for the Boom Pistol Bully now, which does make things quite expensive, but unfortunately the Boom Pistol Bully will just simply walk the plank.
Yeah, it's one of the really interesting things about Boom Pistol Bully against Rogue is that, sure, it's incredibly powerful against Rogue, because as you see in the hand of TNCAnswer, there's so many red cards. But when it comes down to it, Rogue almost always has something else it can do for the mana, which we saw there. It's not like the Galakron Warrior list, where it literally shuts off almost the entire deck, and you're sitting there just cursing the name of Boom Pistol Bully.
Pretty much. I mean, that's kind of like the Rogue versus Warrior thing, though, right? Like, if you think of Battle Cries as like big, muscly meat, like that's all Warrior, whereas Rogue has some of that, but then they have a lot of like tricks and, in this case, spell cards to get around it. Goblin Lackey giving Rush over to the Shield of Galakron to take out Van Cleef in a way that leaves him with a 5/1 on the board. You can tell he's thinking of Shadow Step. He's like, maybe, but no. I think he definitely saved that.
Yeah, I wonder if there was ever a world where you try to do a more of a value trade and force your opponent to trade their Van Cleef into you. Just because right here, the Van Cleef and the Skyvateer being able to trade into you, it doesn't necessarily swing anything in your favor. There might have been a way that you trade into the 2/2 and kind of force your opponent to make a bad trade.
But are you worried at the same time of them possibly shadow stepping their Van Cleef on a future turn and making it even bigger? I'd be a little bit concerned about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's something where sometimes you got to take risks, and sometimes you just got to live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing.
Yep. Or the dagger, the poison dagger in this case.
Or the glowy pink dagger.
Right, or the sort of bone dagger. There's lots of daggers, basically, is what we're saying. It's a dagger-heavy matchup. Evil Miscreant will be the play, and he'll go ahead and just Shadow Step that to turn it on.
Yeah, again, just purely on this game plan of hopefully getting this Galakron online early. He did get Boom Pistol Bullied from TNCAnswer to be able to stop it from coming down on turf. Even though it isn't fully invoked, it's still something that Casie wants to get online as early as possible, because he has the Dragonhoof in hand.
We talk about this in a lot of Rogue Galakron games, where for Rogue, you don't necessarily need that full invoke. Even just getting 2 cards that cost 0 can be such a big swing turn, and then the ability to just add a Lackey on whenever you want for the rest of the game is just strong to have access to, you know? Oh, and he's going to Shadow Step the Boom Pistol Bully, and there's another one of those things where you can be really annoying and shut down your opponent turn after turn in some cases.
Yeah, I really like this read from TNCAnswer, being able to realize that there's a lot of cards in the hand for Casie that he's simply not playing after the first Boom Pistol Bully was played. So now he's going to play it again, and you see that completely red hand from Casie.
Yeah, and only 12 health remaining for Casie as well. So there is the chance that if Leroy comes in, oh, he doesn't. There's a Zilliax. And I don't think that's quite enough damage to get the kill, but he was putting himself in the position for possible lethal, I suppose.
I really want to see a Shadow Step Boom Pistol Bully again. I want TNCAnswer to be able to show me that he purposefully knows exactly what's in the hand for Casie, because with hand reading, he can tell that these are all lackeys and other cards that he's simply not playing. I really want to see the Shadow Step Boom Pistol Bully.
You should be able to judge that, like you said, based on what he played over the last couple turns. He's just fishing for a couple spells here and there in the meantime. Okay. Yep, and like you said, seems like the play, like he knows he's got Casie on the ropes. Casie head and hands, face palming a little bit there, because nothing is more annoying than Lotheb essentially coming back over and over and over again. Questing Adventure is kind of insult to injury at this point.
Yeah, and even if it was a Faceless Corruptor or any other minion, when it comes down to it, still would have been doing absolutely nothing. So Boom Pistol Bully. Great play from TNCAnswer, being able to seal out this game, being able to read his opponent and go from there.
You could do something kind of wacky like Questing Adventure and then like Titanic Lackey to make a taunt, but I mean it's something your opponent's probably going to be able to get through, but yeah, I mean this is the only play you can really make, right?
Yeah, and with Ziliax in hand, he's going to be able to push through for lethal damage. So TNCAnswer is going to go up 2-1 against Casie.
All right, so Answer, once again, finding the win here. Casie giving up, doesn't even give him the dignity of striking the final blow. And it is a lead for TNCAnswer, 1 game away from the grand finals here at Hearthstone Masters Tour LA. Or you might as well say Masters Tour Internet, because it's kind of happening everywhere. We're everywhere, they're everywhere.
Masters Tour, formerly Los Angeles, also formerly known as
Bali.
Indonesia. Yeah, just all the things. What a ride production has been, and what we've done as casters and everything. This has
seriously
been players for that matter too. This has been a crazy series of events. But you know what? What a top 8, and these series have been nonstop action.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to shout out like production for scrambling in these last 48 hours to get some sort of broadcast out there. And when there's a crisis like this is a great opportunity for our industry, for esports to step up and give people a little bit of fun in a rough time, right? So, yeah, glad to be here. And you know what? People can't really see where we are, so we could just tell them that we're in Bali, and they kind of have to believe us, right?
I mean, sure, I guess you're right, but at the same
time, I'm on the moon right now.
I am in my room wearing a YoCad t-shirt, just absolutely enjoying Hearthstone to its finest and talking to all these lovely people there in their homes, quarantining, staying safe. So I'm casting that any day.
From Moonbase Doha, and we've got great latency set up here. It's really something else. We've ran fiber all the way from California up to the moon base. Hopefully a satellite doesn't hit that line, but we're doing good.
But you know what else is doing good? I'm so excited to see TNCAnswer be able to possibly win this series with his Holy Wrath Paladin. This is going to be a series to believe in. And when it comes down to it too, normally you can use this Zephyr's the Great to use a Frost Nova to stall out a board a little bit longer, but there is the Living Dragon's Breath in Casey's list for this Druid. He might be able to surprise TNCAnswer if TNCAnswer isn't paying attention. But you know what? He's been paying attention this whole time.
He's been pretty good at playing the game of Hearthstone. Yeah, since Friday, pretty much. Probably since before that even. So we'll see who can take it. Answer looking for one last win to send him to the finals. Casie just trying to stay alive. And the question is how quickly can the Druid overrun the Paladin? Because like you mentioned earlier, Paladin has a lot of good mid-game board clear options, which is exactly when this Druid, no pun intended, ramps up as far as the deck goes.
Yeah, I mean, both these decks can power draw incredibly quickly. So anytime that you see a card in either one of these players' hands that can be played that says draw a card, I would be shocked to see it not being played.
Right. All right, Elven Archer to face. Let's go. Make it happen. Let's start things off with a bang.
Assert dominance.
That's right. Send a message. The Paladin's here. You want to see a card that was released when the game of Hearthstone was released? That's Elven Archer. And the coin, I guess, too. And Novice Engineer. Okay, there's a couple options. But he did it! That's right. It's all about sending a message.
I now have a favorite of who I want to win this game. I am no longer unbiased. Thank you, TNCAnswer,
He's
for
like,
playing a turn 1.
I'm not going to need it. Hey, that is a 2 damage for 1 mana Elven Archer already.
See, the thing is that I'm trying to think of a way that this is ever really going to pay off, because the damage that you do now is almost always going to be healed back up by Hidden Oasis.
Sure. But look, he was intimidated. He could have just hero powered the Elven Archer, but he was too afraid, man. He went after the gnome instead. He fears the Elven Archer now.
Yeah, Casey's hiding in his jacket and everything.
That's right. It's like, that's scary. Does she have another arrow? No, she only carries 1, luckily enough. A 4 damage, 1 mana Elven Archer. The dream.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups that, again, in my Tespa days, that we just saw a whole bunch of. And these first few turns are not necessarily the most exciting, but man, later on in the game, where everything is starting to click, the hands are filled with options, and the rope is coming in, and you have to figure out what everything you have to play around. It gets intense real quick. But right now, we're going to kind of chill, make some jokes, and then, holy crap, in a little bit, we're going to be sweating.
That's right. Well, I'm not sweating here on Moonbase Doa because there's no atmosphere outside, so it's pretty chilly in the dome. Keep in mind, you could have been anywhere, but you just picked your room.
I am quite partial to Southern California.
Wild Pyromancer hitting the deck now. And yeah. Flash of Light. It's only 4 health, I suppose, and it is a board clear. It is a card draw, so essentially it's a pay 2 mana, do damage to everything, and draw a card.
Yeah, remove one of your opponent's threats, draw a card. It said draw a card, and a proc to your Acolyte to draw more cards. Draw cards is good. Draw cards, draw cards.
That's pretty much this deck in a nutshell. Draw cards, draw cards, draw cards.
Especially in this matchup too, where the Druid is just has all this downtime. So TNCAnswer needs to find his answers to the mid-range threats that Casey's going to start dropping now that his quest is complete.
Don't you hate it when a player has a name like Answer or something like that? It's a word you use a lot in casting card games. It's like naming yourself Deck or something like that. Or Hand.
Exactly, I was about to mention.
Yep. The things people do to us. Crystology looks like it's going to be the play here. Again, for a little bit more cycle.
Hey, Doa, I heard you like drawing cards.
Oh, I don't like drawing cards myself. I just like watching other players draw cards.
Yeah, I really like this Crystal Smith Kangort's almost definitely going to stick. Or at the same time, it doesn't necessarily need to stick. You need to keep your hand space open, too.
Right. I mean, at this point, that's really what it is. It's just kind of ditching cards in your hand just to make more space in your hand to fill with cards.
Now we also
for the novice
have the
engineer.
coin. We also have the coin possible for the Lion. I'm going to space that on that name. The 3 mana 3/1 Death Rattle draw 1 health minions from your deck.
Right. The Selhet's Pride. Because he grabs other dudes for you. They're all part of his pride. He has a pride of 1 health minions, apparently. Rising Winds, as the quest is online, completed now for Casie. Drawing a card, just putting a 3/2 out. Playing it coy as far as like what he places on the board right now. The more you can draw your opponent's removal out on a smaller group of minions, the better for Druid. But then again, you do sort of like, the longer the game goes, the more, the closer to getting the combo online Answer is,
Yeah, we also have this, like something that we've been mentioning multiple times now with this Druid list, with Ysera Unleashed, getting it to play it early, especially in a deck with a set amount of board clears. If you're able to develop multiple board states with multiple dragons on it that don't use all of your portals, that's going to be incredibly valuable for Casie if he's able to get the time to play Ysera Unleashed this next turn on 9 mana.
Yeah, absolutely. Answer, thinking about it. Coin. Flash of Light, again, just to kind of get a card out of his hand. Decides to opt for something else instead. Goes for the Prismatic Lens. Let's see what he finds. Thalnos.
Drawing that timeout does make Zephyrs activated as well. That is all the duplicates out of TNCAnswer's list.
Getting a little bit cheaper timeout, always a nice thing too. Nubisoft Defender. Alright, so do you think he just toss out the Ysera Unleashed here?
I really like it. It's something where just playing out these Oasis Surgers or something of that nature is going to be able to basically play the same kind of threat. It's going to be answered, or it has to be answered from his opponent. I think the Ysera Unleashed turn is something where you can basically say, hey, I'm going to need to develop strong boards later on in the game as well.
Yeah, the other thing is, killing off Selhet's Pride, I believe, does force a card to get burnt by Answer. Only loses the Soup Vendor.
Yeah, you see answered having a sigh of relief that it was not something more valuable.
It could have been way worse.
But yeah, I also like this. This is a lot of stats on board. It does make answer need to answer it. And we do see that if he is able to deal with this board, then a Ysera Unleashed. So I do like this play. The more that I think about it, being able to play more stats before your utility plays is, again, something that I always harp on. So more stats on the board now, then your Ysera Unleashed play the following turn is incredibly strong.
Yep. All right, thinking hard though. Really racking his brain here because again, this is the deck that's been, tricky to win with in a couple different matches for Answer. He's come this far. Let's see. Timeout. Just wants to essentially take a timeout. Yeah, why not jam the Blood Mage Thalnos, get yourself a little more card draw from the Loot Hoarder as well. And there's the Ysera Unleashed. Okay, Power of the Wild is the draw. Innervate for a little bit more mana.
Yeah, just getting that extra card draw here from the Wrath, and then it looks like he's hoping to get one of the portals out, but doesn't look like that's the case. So now this is actually almost better for Casie that he doesn't get a portal because again, this board needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I guess you do kind of have to do something about the board on the other side, but yeah, you definitely don't want the portals yet. Just gonna go ahead and use the Shrink Ray. Reduce the damage coming in, but notably not removing the minions altogether. Again, to try to reduce the power of the possible portal chain that would come out. So what's it going to be? Another double Oasis Surger presents, like you said, another board to deal with. Of course, when you add a Power of the Wild on that as well, suddenly the damage does get very scary.
Yeah, being able to double the attack that was hitting face this turn from 4 to 8 is definitely something that Power of the Wild is almost never going to do better than. So that's a solid use of that card.
True.
TNCAnswer is going to keep looking for ways to deal with board rather than using Zephyrs. That's going to be the final card to hopefully either be pushing damage to kill his opponent or to clear a board that he can't deal with otherwise.
Right. Now, as far as options, you're looking at like a Consecrate, but that still leaves, even with the Wild Pyromancer on the board along with that still leaves 12 damage coming at you.
Yeah, with 4 cards left in deck, the Shrivala Baleful Banker combos for healing. So as long as he doesn't die, he should be okay to possibly do that play.
That's true.
I'm trying to look at ways that he could possibly swing for an additional 10 more damage for only having 2 minions on board. Which I don't think he does. He doesn't have a Zephyrs the Great in his list for Casie's side of things. He does, instead of that Zephyrs, he does have the Living Dragon Breath that we have in hand. So,
right.
But instead, Answer is going for the Zephyrs play.
Oh, and the Brawl. Yeah. All right. Yeah, engineering, so he's got that 5 mana left for the Brawl, and so we'll see what comes out of it. Ideally, you'd want like one of the little 2/2s.
Or his own Zephyrs.
Oh, or his own Zephyrs. That'll work too, yeah, that's exactly what he gets. Yeah. Called that one. Wow. Impressive. All right, Varanus comes out, so you have a 7/6 on the board, and this is what Druid does, ladies and gentlemen. It's just going to fill the board right back up again.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Casie's looking for. You see Zephyrs come down, that tells you that you don't have, or that Answer doesn't have a lot of things to be able to affect the board right away. So this is exactly what he's looking for.
Yeah, 3 cards in the deck yet for TNCAnswer, both Holy Wraths in hand, and his opponent at 26 health, 1 health away from dying to the combo. And does Answer have the next, 2-3 turns maybe he needs to set that up? Like you were saying earlier, he still has the option to play the Shrivala and the Baleful Banker, set things up a little bit, and then also get enough healing to probably survive. Yeah, but you are a little bit concerned if you're Answer.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the Wild Pyromancer into Consecration into Hammer of Wrath as well. This is removes a lot off the board. Yeah, this Hammer Breathing play does make the Shivala free now.
Right. And it's that situation where, you know, you're probably not going to die. Just going to go ahead and make a minion instead. Wow, really, really playing it patiently. This is something we've seen from Answer all match, is just kind of leaving things until the very last moment, going for the ultimate efficiency.
Yeah, and we see here exactly, he knows that his opponent can't deal more than 10 damage from hand with this deck right now, so...
Yeah. Oh, and now you have the Pyromancer equality play. Almost just jammed it reflexively, but it's like, okay, wait, stop for a moment, think, is there something a little bit more efficient? Sathravar is out there as well, in the hand.
The equality draws.
Yeah.
Nutty.
It is hard not to do this.
It looks like that this is going to seal it out. There's nothing that Casie is going to be able to do to stop this combo.
It really seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah, what do you draw as the Druid here? I mean, I guess a couple more portals?
Yeah, the deck is mostly portals at this point, so it has to be portals, but it does not draw them. And even the portals, I'm trying to think of anything that it could have possibly done to keep them alive.
Hidden Oasis gives you a 6/6, but you need a little bit more than that. And wow, just really patient play from Answer, finding the proper answers, I should say, to all the boards
that
have been thrown at him here.
This Casie play is huge because he's able to remove the board. There isn't enough damage.
Yep.
Yeah, because the Consecration cannot be pulled, or cannot be played this turn. So he leaves his opponent at 1 if he were to swing, but he's saving that True Silver swing.
I can't believe it. Like, here we go again, where, oh no, it's a Deathwing Mad aspect, but he doesn't have the battle cry, he's not going to attack everybody. Casie, I think, knows it's over. There's a concede, and the Holy Wrath Paladin makes it all the way to the grand finals. That's insane. TNCAnswer, you can see the relief on his face. But man, he definitely is an expert in that deck, and just a Hearthstone expert in general. And he is our first player going through to the finals.
Really does seem like the tale of the tape has been people have not expected this Paladin, and when it comes down to it, if that Living Dragon Breath would have been something like a Zephyr's the Great or some other card, there possibly could have been a way of pushing more damage or something of that nature. But so everyone's been able to kind of make Priest kind of suffer, or sorry, not Priest, but Mage suffer, and now this Paladin is able to just take advantage of those changes in the meta and just win throughout. Incredibly impressive from TNCAnswer. He's going to the finals.
Yeah, totally wild. And tons and tons of fun. Our second semifinal is going to be coming up in just a little bit, but man, I maybe I'm just underestimating this Paladin deck. I've been hating on it for a while. Like, I'm like, oh, it's just a cheesy combo deck. Like, it's gonna get rushed down. But watching Answer play this deck is just inspirational. In that, I'm loving this deck more and more.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because this is something where a lot of the aggro decks have been able to kind of be beaten out throughout this weekend, and now the combo deck on the other side of things is the one being able to kind of show up the rest of the competition. So way heads up play from TNCAnswer. He's doing a great job, and you know what? It's been a pleasure being able to cast that series with you guys this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at our playoff bracket one more time. As you can see, TNCAnswer moving through Yugi and Blyces in the next match here to see who our second finalist is going to be. Make a prediction. Who do you think, Heatwave? Who's going to make it?
Ooh, I got to go with Blyze. Blyze has just been on a tear recently, and you know what? I really want to see Blyze versus TNCAnswer, the reigning, or at least from Arlington champion versus TNCAnswer with Paladin. I can't wait to see that final. However, Bank Yugi's also been doing a phenomenal job. So you know what? No matter who goes to this finals, I really can't wait to see who is able to beat TNCAnswer with that Paladin.
Yeah, thank you. He's been playing really well, but the idea of Blyce possibly going for 2 Masters Tour wins in a row is insane. And so, Don't go anywhere, guys. When we come back, the last semifinal of Hearthstone Masters Tour Los Angeles, presented by T-Mobile Bank Yugi versus X Splices. We'll be back right after this.
Masters Tour Los Angeles is brought to you by T-Mobile. Rank up with America's first and only nationwide 5G network.